Let's be honest. In today's digital world, marketing isn't about just throwing stuff at a wall to see what sticks. No, it's more like a high-stakes battlefield. Precision, data, strategy, those are your weapons now. Guesswork, that just gets you left behind. So let's get into the blueprint for how you can actually win that war. And that right there is the exact mindset we're talking about. This isn't just about scraping by or surviving. It's about total market domination. We're going to break down 3 real-world case studies that show exactly how businesses went from full-blown crisis to being completely in control. All right, first up, we've got a company that produces homeopathic treatments. And they were facing a pretty fundamental problem, a real crisis. They were spending money, a lot of it, on marketing. But they had absolutely no clue what was actually working. They were flying completely and totally blind. And this table, well, it really shows you just how bad things were. I mean, look at this. 0 presence on Google, a confusing setup with 2 different domains, and absolutely no feedback loop between the people making the sales calls and the marketing team. But the real shocker, that number right there. Their estimated cost to get a single new customer, the ACPA, was a mind-blowing $3,000. For their product, that's not just inefficient, it's a guaranteed way to lose money on every single sale. They were basically bleeding cash and didn't even have the tools to see where the wound was. So how in the world do you fix a problem you can't even measure? Well, you start by building the right toolkit. The solution was a really logical 3-phase attack. First, you have to build a foundation. That meant merging the websites and putting in proper professional tracking. And because this is a health company, we're talking secure, HIPAA-compliant tracking that protects user privacy while still giving them the data they need. Step 2, optimization. They had to retrain the ad algorithms from Meta and Google to focus on what really matters, actual sales, not just meaningless clicks. And finally, you build for the future with retention campaigns to keep those hard-won customers around. And the result of just getting the measurement right was, honestly, it's just incredible. Their cost to get a new customer absolutely plummeted from that estimated $3,000 all the way down to just $80. That's a 97% drop. This isn't just about saving a little money. It's about eliminating waste on a massive, massive scale.
But here's the part that's truly amazing. Getting way more efficient didn't mean they got fewer customers. In fact, because they were now targeting the right people, their number of new clients actually tripled. Think about that for a second. They were spending dramatically less to get dramatically more.
And the good news just kept coming. By focusing on the entire customer journey, not just the first sale, they also managed to boost their customer retention by 30%. They weren't just getting people in the door anymore. They were building a loyal following. It just goes to show you 2 really important things. First, you can't grow what you can't measure. And second, keeping a customer multiplies the value of all your marketing efforts. Okay, let's move on to our next case, which builds on this idea. We're shifting from a crisis of measurement to something that can be even trickier, a crisis of trust. This story is about a financial broker in the Middle East and North Africa region. And let me tell you, their online reputation was in absolute tatters. Just imagine this for a second. You're a potential client, you've got some money to invest. You Google this company's name, and what pops up? Scam reports. Vicious attacks from competitors pretending to be reviews. Complaints on local forums that were never answered, often in local Arabic dialects the company wasn't even paying attention to. This wasn't just a little PR headache. It was a giant brick wall standing between them and new business. So you can't just put a Band-Aid on a problem like this. The solution had to be comprehensive, attacking the issue from every single angle. It was a 6-pillar strategy that had proactive stuff, like encouraging real, positive reviews and building up their authority with great content. But it also had defensive moves, like 24/7 crisis monitoring and publicly, transparently responding to all feedback. They had to go all in on rebuilding that trust. And the before and after picture here is just stunning. Before, the search results were a minefield of negativity. But after just 6 months of hard work, the top 10 results on Google were 100% clean. And check out how that translated to real business results, a 7.6% boost in their client conversion rate and a 15% jump in retention. It just proves that a good reputation isn't some fluffy vanity metric, it is a powerful tool for growth. All right, our final case study tackles a totally different but very common problem, the crisis of visibility. We're looking at an online casino that was doing okay, but they were trapped inside their own bubble. They were completely invisible to anyone who didn't already know their name. And here you can see the problem in a nutshell. A staggering 95% of their traffic from Google
came from people who were already searching for their specific brand name. Only a tiny 5% came from people searching for things like, best online slots or play blackjack online. They were missing out on this huge pool of potential new customers who were literally searching for exactly what they offered.
So to break out of that bubble, they had to launch a massive, and I mean massive, SEO overhaul. The strategy was intense. It involved re-architecting the whole site to be more search engine friendly, creating a huge library of content targeting hundreds of these new non-branded keywords, fixing all the technical stuff behind the scenes, and building authority by publishing content that proves their expertise and trustworthiness, which is something Google's algorithm absolutely loves.
So what happens when you suddenly show up for all those new searches? Your core business metrics? Well, they just explode. They saw a 20% jump in monthly first-time deposits, and that's the absolute lifeblood of any online casino, coming directly from all this new organic traffic. And here's the best part. Because this traffic from SEO is essentially free, it had a huge impact on their efficiency. They didn't have to rely so much on expensive paid ads, and that drove their overall cost to acquire a customer down by 18%.
So let's get right to the bottom line, because that's what matters most. More customers coming in at a lower cost led directly to a 22% increase in the company's net profit margin. It is the perfect example of optimizing for the right objective. This was never about rankings for the sake of rankings. It was about directly driving profitability. So we've walked through 3 very different crises, right? A measurement crisis, a trust crisis, and a visibility crisis. But here's the cool part. Underneath all the different tactics, there's a single universal blueprint for growth that connects every single one of them. So what is this universal blueprint? Well, it all starts with a rock-solid foundation of measurement. You just can't improve what you're not tracking. From there, it's all about optimizing for the right objective, telling your tools what a real win looks like a sale, not just a click. It's about personalizing your message to drive conversions and building retention to multiply the value of every customer. And finally, it's about getting your sales and marketing teams talking to each other. These are the principles that turn marketing from a cost into a true engine for growth. And all of this really leaves us with one final important thought. After seeing what's possible when you get this strategic, data-driven approach right, it's probably worth asking yourself, is your marketing built on guesswork, or is it a finely tuned growth engine ready to dominate?